Our U.S. men's national team player update coming up shortly, but we begin today with Liverpool and Manchester United, annually the biggest fixture on the English calendar, and lately, annually the biggest disappointment on the English calendar. Scoreless after 90 minutes in Anfield. It should be said that in normal circumstances, when that park is full of people, regardless what happens on the field, it is an unforgettable situation. But we're not there right now. But I do believe we need to brace ourselves for these big English fixtures, because more often than not, they do disappoint. It's a unique year. You've got to get something when you play the top four, top six. But look at what we're getting in these big Premier League games. You had scoreless Liverpool, Manchester United. Manchester Derby was scoreless. Chelsea Spurs was scoreless. United Chelsea was scoreless. And you see Manchester United there a lot, and they obviously play a little differently against the big boys. Jurgen Klopp voiced his displeasure. No surprise there. And he said this: worst thing you could do, worst thing you could face is world-class players defending that way. So it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. He said they were world-class players, but he said they shouldn't be defending like that. But they did, and it seems to have worked. This was a bigger fixture than usual. It was first versus second place. Manchester United remain in first place, and if even they could have won this game late, even though they conceded so much possession, lived on the counterattack, had some players play out of position to play a more defensive group. Paul Pogba a little bit more accelerated on the field. Marcus Rashford playing a bit out of position. So you wonder, okay, who wins out of this? And the food for thought was Manchester City, who blew the doors off of Crystal Palace, are the big winners here. But I would say Manchester United are doing everything they need to do to win a Premier League title. They're getting results against these big clubs, albeit points here and there, but they're beating the teams they're supposed to, and they score a lot of goals in those games. They are second in the Premier League in scoring, 34 goals in 18 games. So that is the textbook when you want to win a Premier League title. They are doing it the way you're supposed to. And keep in mind, with no European football, do not underestimate this United squad and seeing them at the end tightly packed. I think it's 9 teams within 8 points of each other. All right, let's shift focus to the U.S. men's national team. It wasn't an eventful week by any means. Weston McKennie came off the bench for Juventus in a big game. They lost against Inter. He didn't really distinguish himself in that game. Christian Pulisic started for Chelsea. They beat Fulham, but it wasn't pretty for Chelsea. If you look at some of the press coming out of England, Christian Pulisic is starting to shoulder much more of the blame. There's frustration all over the club, and it's focused on him as well. I saw it more than I ever have seen this week. So we'll see how things bubble over there, but it's not a good situation, even though they got that victory. Then you have Anthony Robinson, who played for Fulham, got a red card. I actually enjoyed watching the red card. I like to see the rush of blood, although it cost his team. Gio Reyna didn't play for Dortmund. Tyler Adams didn't play for Leipzig. Serginho Dest started for Barcelona as they lost the Spanish Super Cup to Athletic Bilbao. He came off, didn't really do much. Interesting news around Jordan Morris is it looks like he's going to get a loan spell at Swansea. Swansea are in the English Championship, but they're in the automatic promotion spot. So the school of thought is Jordan Morris plays well there. Maybe it goes to a permanent deal, and he's a Premier League player playing for a club where he can log a lot of minutes. Makes sense. We had him a long time in Major League Soccer. It certainly seems like it needs to happen soon if he wants to play in Europe. And Major League Soccer probably not going to start at best case scenario April, maybe May. So we're in January. He wants to play some games. This is a chance to do it. So it makes a lot of sense if you take a closer look at it. So that's good news. Brendan Aronson scored a goal in his Salzburg debut, albeit a friendly. Josh Sargent started for Werder Bremen, but didn't score. And, well, that brings us to the biggest story of the week. And by the way, when I say this was a so-so week, I am comparing it to the very high standard that these guys have been setting week in, week out for the last 3 or 4 months. Matthew Hoppe, who scored the hat-trick for Schalke in his last game, scores another goal, and suddenly you've got to take what he's doing very seriously. When you're scoring goals, all the goals for your team, that's what happens. Now, Schalke would end up losing that game, But Hoppy now is a guy you lock into the starting 11 for Schalke as they try to survive here on the back end. And it is impossible to ignore him from the U.S. men's national team setup. I imagine he's going to get into a game March, early summer at the very latest. But he is going to figure in here because they need someone who can score goals, and he's proving he can score goals. We talked about him last week and all the positive things he does. Speaking of games, and they're training right now, the U.S. men's, an alternate group. They will have a game on January 31st against Serbia, so something to look forward to. But even then, in a week that we were like, this didn't go so great, Matthew Hoppy rescues the day. And I will be here to tell you all the wonderful challenges met and journeys had by these young U.S. Americans as they prepare for a busy 2021. And you want to be prepared too, so subscribe to the Soccer OG and tell your friends because they want to be prepared too, right?